Kia ora and welcome once again to the Aotearoa Rugby Pod. 2 weeks left in the round robin on Super Rugby, and the top 4 positions, the playoff positions towards the bottom of the 8, they're all up for grabs. So there's plenty to talk about, including a big game this weekend between the Chiefs and the Canes, which could change all of that. The intentional knockback from Quinton Strange and the ramifications from that law. Is that a silly law? We're going to talk plenty about that. The Black Ferns go down to Canada. That was a bit of an upset. The world of women's rugby and the rankings has changed completely. It's probably for the better, but we'll talk about that too. Of course, your email, your YouTube comments, plenty of them, and the tipping competition towards the end of the show. We are very, very lucky today. Incredibly lucky. We rolled out the red carpet. One Bryn Hall is in the studio.
He is back.
Good to have you here, mate.
Look, it's great to be back, lads. I think, sometimes you don't get the visual of, being able to touch and feel and being able to feel that kind of camaraderie that we've kind of had. So great to be back, and we'll get on to that no-touch, that try for the Crusaders against the Brumbies, mate.
Did you ever put on pants for you today? That's how big
I am disappointed. I am disappointed. I thought I was going to see his legs and the kind of workouts that he's been doing. So, but hey, plenty of time to see.
You didn't have a chance to shave them this week, so you just...
I just wear the shorts too often.
Fair enough. Now look, Jibber, of course, welcome to the show.
Always a treat. Always a treat, guys.
Blessed to be welcomed in the usual fashion.
Yeah.
Now, plenty of good footy on the weekend, guys. Let's start looking forward to this Chiefs versus Canes game. There's plenty on the line of this game. The Canes currently in second, but they lost a chance to get a bonus point on the weekend. And with the draw that the Brumbies have left, there's a really good chance if they go down to the Chiefs that they're not going to be in second spot. So they have to win this game. It's really important. What kind of position do you think, Chip, that the Chiefs are in comparison to the Canes, considering what happened on the weekend with the Chiefs away win and the Canes looking scrappy with a second-string team? What's going to happen this weekend?
Well, Chiefs at home as well. And although that game was close against the Rebels, you do actually have to tip your cap to the Rebels. They're playing some decent footy. But I think the biggest challenge for the Hurricanes is they've been, and we highlighted their ball play with their forwards a few weeks ago, and that's been their strength, but teams have smartened up a little bit. And now they're having to go at the back because there's a wall in front, which is the right option, but it's a little bit muddled and it's not as smooth as it has been. So they're not having the ability to get to the edge. I think the Blues sort of showed it. They really tightened up and pressured Brett Cameron out the back, and that caused a number of injuries, a number of mistakes. And then even with the different sides, same thing happened against Moana Pacifica. They really brought a lot of line speed, didn't give them too many pitches of that space. So somehow they've got to either be able to get it to the width, via kick or hands, to try and manipulate that defence to give the pitches what plays into their hand. But I said this to Clark Laidlaw, and he goes, well, yeah, that's all well and good. We need fast ball. Because the crux of the issue is our ball's being slowed at the breakdown, and that's just meaning we're having to run passively, and not getting that speed of the ball. So I think the Chiefs will target that breakdown area that we've seen the Blues and Moana Pacifica really challenged to put them under pressure.
We've had a suggestion from one of our emailers, Jimmy Kipp, basically said Flanders could be the key to that. Playing Flanders at 8, getting a bit more go forward, a bit stronger in the contact. Do you feel like that is a way for them to get up after the Blues and the Brumbies forwards showed that the Canes could be pushed around slightly?
I think Brendan Yosso's had a pretty good year in what he's valuing in that kind of number 8 jersey, and I think they're very, very lucky. We've talked around how much kind of depth that they've had at that squad, whether it's Flanders, Yosso, Peter Laka, who I thought was really good on the weekend.
Well, he changed the game.
Exactly, for Duplessis. So, I think whoever they do have there, it's not going to make a massive change, but I do think the physicality area is going to be a big point. Every time we play against the Chiefs, and we've seen this year with the way that they are, if they don't win that advantage line, which they haven't been able to do against the Blues previously, and if they do that against the Chiefs, it's going to be a tough night. But, sometimes you're not going to get that, and I think the kicking game becomes very, very important. If TJ Perenara comes back in, the contestable games, they have shown the ability to be able to do that. Brett Cameron flying the middle of the field, or even contestables going into that far channel to be able to then try win the breakdown and, put pressure onto the team defensively that way. There's a lot of things there, but I think with Yosse or whoever they start in the loose forward trio, it's not going to make a big difference. They just need to win collisions.
I think they should put the ball down the Chiefs' ends, because the Chiefs only kicked 13 times on the weekend and really chanced their arm from deep. So they've got a very good defensive structure, the Hurricanes, and that's one area I think if if they get their kicks right and the chase, and they could put some pressure on in the air, and then really just sort of swarm and rely, I suppose, on the Chiefs' errors. I just think they don't want to play too much in their end.
Is that a change from the Chiefs? Because when I think of the Chiefs, I think kicking long, kicking regularly.
But if you look even this year, and the strange thing for me was it's so wet. I was like, this is just, the Chiefs are known around 29, 30 kicks a game. That's when you know they're at the best. That's how they won the titles in 12 and 13. Aaron Cruden put that ball in front of them, or, you know, they got those contestals. But I'm sure they'll go back. I think they'll review it, and we'll probably see around that 29, 30 kicks. But it was a strange stat for me because it is very un-Chiefs-like.
You know, they have the best phase play shape when the ball is going very, very well. It's very hard to defend. I've talked around the 13 edges and on that edge, the questions that they ask in and around off Damien McKenzie or even a bit wider, very hard to defend with attacking ball. But, you know, if that's stifled and that breakdown isn't so good, the Hurricanes have great line speed pressure. So it's a chess match. It's going to be a really good chess match, I believe, with who's going to win that contact here and what they can
and that
ride.
Depth to really draw that line speed pressure out and manipulate it. I think if the Chiefs are going to play and they've got the skill set, they've got the speed, they really do need to get that depth, because that can sometimes, with a rush D, draw out the chinks, and that's where you can go.
With all of those changes that the Hurricanes made, I'm imagining that they're going to be changing right back to that other team.
Yeah, I definitely think so. They've got a 23 that, you know, they're right behind. You know, Lakai definitely will be there based on my chat with Clark Laidlaw. He was like, oh yeah, he changed the game. So that loose forward trio, I think you'll see will be there as well. Shields at 6. And I don't think it's a bad thing, them doing all those changes, because they've actually done it twice previously and it's worked really well. Like the Rebels, they absolutely wiped the floor with them in Palmy, and then obviously the Fiji and Drua match, they did the same thing and came out on top there. So it's just part of getting that balance of the squad, and guys have been putting their hand up and deserve an opportunity. It was clunky, but also, like I said about the Rebels, like Moana Pacifica put up a good fight, especially defensively. They were right into it, and they went through the Cairns. You know, almost dominated most of that forward battle for most of the game.
And I think also as well, with knowing, you know, with what their goal is wanting to be in that final, which is going to be 5 games now. You can't go 5 straight games, especially with derby games coming up right now. So you've got to be able to try and give those guys opportunities to be able to, I guess, let those boys rest, but then also build that kind of currency and that kind of moment for those finals that those boys have experienced playing, and still have that opportunity to maybe think that the coaches, with a good performance here, I might be able to play. And so it keeps your powder dry. I think it keeps the group pretty motivated, and knowing that you've been given opportunities, and now it's up to the players now, when they are given opportunities, it's time for them to take the opportunities to go into a final series.
Not to take it to the Blues, but they have done it very well this year.
What have I been on here? Been over 10 minutes.
They've made a lot of changes every week, and I was a little bit nervous going into the Gordy Hunter. I was thinking, man,
3 debutants.
And late changes. The way they responded, that was an impressive one.
Are we just moving on from we're going right into the Blues to the Blues? You are right. I look forward to talking about that, Jip. 10 minutes. It took us 10 minutes to get there.
Well, you had to get it in there.
The Blues Crusaders, I mean, let's get straight into it. This is a game which is of real interest. 1, because the Blues can further consolidate their top spot. 2, because if the Crusaders lose this, their tiny speck of a chance of making the playoffs is absolutely gone. What we saw on the weekend was them break a new record, their first ever season without an away win. So each week we're hearing new things coming along. Now, I suppose the key point from the Crusaders on the weekend was Quinton Strange, wasn't it? It was that knockback in goal for the penalty try, and then the game gone, he's got a yellow card, it's all over. I'm really interested, I suppose, in your guys' takes. 1, on maybe not so much the ruling, because come what may, it was a penalty and they scored and the game was over. Whether it was a kick at goal or a penalty try, didn't matter. The rule itself, it seems like a silly rule. Like, what's the point of that rule?
I think the funny thing, Ross and Jip, is that I've actually been sent off for the same thing. So I probably can actually tell you what all my thoughts were around it. I was in Japan and we were playing against Mitsubishi. It was in the rain. Not off a kick, but it was a chip and chase, and I went to go chase the ball back and to try and get the ball. It was in a very similar position to Quinton Strange, and actually, obviously, tried to manipulate the ref, which I failed miserably at. Don't speak any form of Japanese, so didn't get that across the line. But then from there, got a yellow card.
Yeah.
It wasn't a penalty try though, but it was actually a penalty and was seen as a yellow card. So I guess probably the things that we're going to talk about is around, do we think it was actually a penalty try?
It wasn't.
I don't think it was a penalty try, but it was definitely going to be a penalty.
Yeah,
Definitely a penalty.
It wouldn't change the game, but
Yeah.
I don't see how you could say he was going to score, because he was reaching.
Yeah.
He was reaching.
It wasn't like his hand was trying to go under and catch the ball.
Yeah.
He was
pulled back in the pre-play by Callum Grace. So to some degree, he was prevented from getting to the point he should have been at. And then also, you know, you got to take that player out of play when they've been yellow carded, right? So, but you also had Fihaki standing right there, so there was a chance he might not have got it.
I think if you look at the wide angle and where the boys are actually set up, the Crusader guys are actually set up for that kick. Now, usually, Jip, you'd know this, you talk around like in that kind of positioning, getting a guy that's two that are behind the post. If it does hit it, it ricochets back to them, and then you've got two guys that are inside the goal post, being able to be in a position, if they do catch it, you pass it back and then you can kick it out. And knowing that it's the last play of the game, having those conversations internally on the field, like,
but you always got your back to the kicker.
Yeah.
If you're in front of the post, you have your back to the kicker, and all you're doing is looking at the post.
And then if you're catching it, then you're passing it to the guy that's obviously looking forward. And that's probably my biggest thing there, is that, like, you know, these kind of things that we're not accustomed to seeing from the Crusaders, little lack of judgment or calls like that you know, we're accustomed to seeing them being able to nail that. It just hasn't been done this year. Another example, and I hate to bring it back, but the Waratahs example of the kick, you know, like 9 times out of 10, you're just understanding situationally what's required. If you just take that a little bit more, that kick's done, the game's over. But those decisions this year, they've been on the wrong side of it, and it's cost them. It's cost them 2 games away from home.
And we can speak from experience, Brennan. We've had some tough seasons. And little things like forgetting to do your role is just because there's so much clutter. Like pressures, that I suppose that cognitive capacity is just overflowing with things you're concerned about wanting to change, and then you get more desperate, and then there's more changes, and then you skip over things because you're trying to bring a lot in, and it just gets, you know, obviously overwhelming. And I would say they've got a system in place.
Correct,
I just think, you know, they were disheartened. Penalty, they're like, oh, here we go again. You know, and probably just assumed he'd get the kick. But it just shows you've got to stay on.
I hate to point it out because I'm a Crusader man, but the facts don't lie. The facts do not lie.
If they are going to challenge the Blues, and I think they can down there in those conditions, but man, they've 17 turnovers, you know, and 16 line breaks. You know, like you'd think they'd capitalise and get the points. Like they created a lot on attack.
Yeah, they did.
You know, Severu's a freak. I think it's the best rugby I've ever seen him play. Like he's amazing. So they've definitely still got the game there. There's an element of confidence, but then there's just the error rate. If they can bring that down, because they're very disciplined. They only go away 7 penalties, but again, their line-out will need to, you know, improve. But they actually made the Brumbies throw it 70%. So that is an area that we've seen with the Blues. If they can't get that set piece right, you can really challenge it, and then that becomes a weapon for them. They can kick it out.
Yep.
You know, and something Sam Whitelock did really, really well to us when I was playing is he loved going to lineouts because he just had full confidence that he knew what was going on. He liked to disrupt it, and you know, to the point in my last few years, we were coming up with specific lineouts just for Crusaders game with different calls, because he would sit and listen to calls and work it out. You know, so that, and I think they're still got Cullen Grace is very good in this area. Quinton Strain's very good at reading this area. So that line out, I think they should be thinking, you know, if there's one area, because the Blues is a very simple game plan. Like I'm going to say it again, 5 offloads for about the 5th week in a row. It's just direct. There's low turnovers. They're 60% gain line. They just get in that 22. They score. Defensively, they stop. In their 22. That was a lot of changes for the Blues, but it was just normal. Like they've got something special there, what they're building, and the ability to be like the Crusaders from 2017 to 2023 is next man up. You don't even know that someone's changed.
I think one thing before we touch on the Blues and how good they are, Chip, is around the one good thing the Crusaders did, I think that could probably bode them well. You talk around line-out, was their scrum dominance against the Brumbies. You know, obviously having Joe Moody back in there, Fletcher Neal had a really good game. Cody Taylor being back in around that scrummaging area as well. It's going to be massive for them. So line-out, scrum, set piece, be massive for them, and they should take confidence against that Brumbies scrum that they did on the weekend. Absolutely.
I mean, it's going to be a similar team. You know, like the Blues and the Brumbies play pretty similar. You know, very direct, limited mistakes. defensively sound. So it's not going to be a lot that needs to change for them. And as I say, 16 clean breaks. So the Brumbies aren't a bad side. I know I've been into their defensive stats all year. Like they've been quite low. They actually tackled at 88%, but they're creating enough now.
Yeah.
It's just stopping the tries and having that discipline.
Yeah.
That is a game that would completely tip up the entire competition if the Crusaders came through and did that.
But you know the weather that was going to be down there.
Yeah, I do.
And you know how you guys play.
Yep.
Like, talk to that. Like, that kick straight you used to have with George Bridge.
Yep.
Like, I think they honestly just need to watch a couple of those games and do that.
What would Bryn do?
Yeah.
What would Bryn do? Not what I would do. But no, I think you are right, definitely, Jip, knowing that what probably is going to happen in Christchurch around the wetness. And I think it's one thing that they've probably gone away this year. Like, in a lot of their games I've seen in the first half, their kicking rate's probably been about 6 or 7. There must be trends that they're seeing.
A lot of breakdowns in their half.
Correct. They must be seeing a lot of trends in around. They want to hold on to the ball and obviously try and suffocate and being able to build pressure that way. But yeah, I think it is one thing that they're going to have to possibly do against the Blues if they're not going to win that gain line percentage, which it could be a thing, or whether their set piece or their attack's not going well. Going to that box kick we had with Noah Hoth and Mitchell Drummond, even Elvis Fergus Burke kicking to the far contestable, and then being able to go through. Because off that, then the Blues then have to be able to attack with a 13-man line, 2 in the backfield, and then they go into another contestable, which the Blues are doing really well.
Potential knock-ons, and the weather with the dew, whether it's raining or not, it's tough when Christchurch this time of the year around claiming those high balls.
What the Blues are doing really well, that even if the Crusaders get that right and the conditions are a little bit wet, the game that they have, Jip, I just think it wins anywhere.
So simple. It's
simple, and the forward pack this year, I've talked about it a lot, you've talked about it a lot, but the way that they're winning games, it's simple.
They just all look like they're on the same page.
It's so simple, man. And like the big men and the big bodies that they have, they're just winning collisions. They're going to set piece more. Then when they get into that 22, they just bully teams. On the weekend, they literally, I think they just physically dominated the Highlanders. And then we haven't even touched on their defence. The Highlanders had in the I think it was after 60 minutes, they were in that 22 area 7 times. Only 1 time they came away with points. 14%. What numbers do you talk about, Jip?
Yeah, mate, you want to be
60,
sort of
70?
60. If we use the Crusaders era as an example, you guys were around 70%, which is pretty efficient.
So it's going to be a very tough task. I know it's in Christchurch, and hopefully they can get a win. But again, the forward pack's really going to step up.